There you go, baby.
There we go. It's nicer. There we go. Yeah.
No, man. Here we real quick. I wanted to get this. Brandon, no. Johnson is one of my favorites. Was that game 3 against Montreal where he scored with 1 second left. Loudest crowd I've ever heard. You and I were both there as well. I mean, Tyler Johnson announces his retirement last night, Corey, and this is a guy I mentioned before, just a down-to-earth cat, guy from Spokane, Washington, big Seattle Seahawks fan, hated the Patriots, so you and I definitely loved him for that. But just a guy that I think was on that – he was on that wave of the new era of Lightning hockey, 2015, how good that triplets line was. What are your fond memories of a guy like Tyler Johnson? What kind of impact from you did you see with him with the Lightning in the Tampa Bay area?
I love TJ. I thought he was just an amazing story coming from Spokane. Obviously, not the ideal size for a player in hockey. Kind of a starter from the bottom guy.
Mm-hmm.
Was he drafted or he wasn't drafted?
Undrafted, yeah.
Undrafted, yeah. And he came from kind of like the wacky leagues out in the Pacific Northwest,
Mm-hmm.
And he turns into a wonderful player, a wonderful part of a great line that brought back a lot of memories of that, of the start of that Lightning run. And you look at everything he did in the 2015 playoffs. You're talking like Game 6 against the Red Wings. They're down 3-2 in the series. He carries them to a win, gets them back to Game 7 at home, which they end up winning. Obviously, you talk about just Game 3 to put them up a 3-0 against the Canadiens, scoring with it was under 1 second.
Yeah, it was
amazing. It was like a 3-0 or
something. Yeah.
3-0, and I'm like, someone's got to shoot. They kept around. And then you look at the Game 2 against the Rangers. They're down 1-0 in that series. He scores a couple goals, really brings them back there. And you can go as far as really, I think, which was a great, kind of a great curtain call, was Game 3 of the Cup final in 21. He scores twice, puts them up 3-0 again against the Canadiens. They eventually win that Cup in 5. So if you look at you have to look at the guy. He had just a wonderful career. Had to be just a wonderful sort of pinch me every day. I'm playing in the league. He ends up winning 2 cups. He's he's beloved in this community. He'll always go down as just a wonderfully gritty player. He was great with the media, just a decent human being overall, and a great teammate to everybody. Just one of those wonderful stories in sports of just a guy that got every bit of what he could out of his talent. Unfortunately, given the fact that he wasn't a big guy, once the injuries started coming, they just piled up. Like he never really could. It was by the time it was unfair because he signs the contract, which he earned. He played his way into a very good contract. But you knew that once the injuries started coming with a guy that size, it was going to be hard to keep him on the ice. It was going to be hard to keep him healthy. And that was, something that dogged him for, most of his, especially the second half of his career. But, he earned the contract that he got because he was a great player and a great part of that team. And he did a lot of wonderful things, a lot of things that really will live down in history with the Lightning.
Yeah. People have asked me like what the legacy of Tyler Johnson is. He's in that group that really showed this team the right way to play to kind of usher in this brand of, top tier hockey for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think he'll get his number retired. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he's a Lightning Hall of Famer one day, if he's a quote unquote Ring of Honor type guy, because he did leave, on such great terms. He had one of the best tribute videos. They got the goal song, arguably the second greatest goal song in Lightning history, probably behind, Stammer Time, Hammer Time there. But he's a guy, I think his legacy is complete with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And he's definitely going to go down as one of the greatest fan favorites, I think, in Tampa Bay sports.
Yeah. And, I know he lives in the area. And he's going to be one of those guys similar to Andrew Chuck, to Brian Brett. You're going to see him around the facility all the time. Like, I feel like you're going to see him around the team all the time, doing community stuff, figuring out ways to just kind of, be part of the organization however he can. And that, and we know that as we get further away from that group of Norfolk guys that came in that led the the 7 or 8 year run. That which of those guys are going to kind of be the guys that are going to be the community guys.
Yeah.
And he's going to be one of those guys. He's definitely going to be one of those guys that we're going to see pretty often over the next several years, I believe.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think he's not a Norfolk guy, but like seeing Patty Maroon and
Yeah.
Ryan McDonough one day, like in 10 years, it'll be interesting, like to see who's the Brian Bradley and the Dave Andrewchucks of the world. That'll be very interesting. What do you make of the Lightning offseason so far, Corey? Not as impactful, not as dramatic as what we saw last year with, moving on from Steven Stamkos and trading Sergachev and bringing in a guy like Jake Gensel. A lot more under the radar moves. What have you made of the acquisitions and the departures so far from the Bolts?
None of the departures surprised me, and the big deal for them was getting Gonsalves, re-up,
Right.
which they did, and they've got some other contract things coming up out the over the next year. JJ Moser is one that I'm sure they're going to be looking at very closely. And so, they made the signings that they can make. I thought they were under the radar signings. They were okay signings, got some term for some guys. You get Holmberg for a couple years. You get, how do you pronounce it, Peltier for, 2-3 years. So, you're hopeful that those guys can find a role on your bottom six forwards, your middle six, your bottom six. And if you do, you got them at pretty good rates for a couple of years. There wasn't a lot they could do without making some major moves, and I just don't think they were in a situation where they had the major moves to make.
Yeah, and I wonder, is that going to be enough? Is it going to be enough, Corey? Because we're watching this series, and when you see Florida, and I understand the difference in the last couple of years, the difference between the flat cap and the cap going up, but it sucks to be able to see Florida be able to bring back Marchand, be able to bring back Bennett, be able to bring back Ekblad. And then when I know cups aren't won and lost in the offseason, but retaining those players is big for them. And when you look at what the Lightning have not done as far as making any kind of cataclysmic moves here in this postseason, have they done enough to close the gap between them and the Cats?
I don't think that, given the situation they face, I don't know that was really possible without, again, taking a major risk and making a big move, which we know JBB is not afraid to make the big move. He thinks it makes sense. And you start to look at the top 8 guys, top 10 guys on the roster. Well, who do you trade? What do you get for them? What makes sense? How is that? Is that going to help the team move forward initially, or is there going to be a little bit of a step back before they move forward? Like how do these things work out? So I don't think they made up any ground. I think they'll probably be looking at the trade deadline, hoping that's see where you are then, or maybe they're kind of in a spot where they as I was telling somebody, there might be some value in being a wild card team that gets connected to the Metropolitan Division. It's just not as good as the Atlantic Division.
Yeah,
there might be some value in that. Not to say that you can position yourself for that, but if you end up there, there might be some value in that. No offense to Carolina, who I think is a very good team, but once you get past Carolina, those things are, and even with Carolina, they're not immune to choking in the playoffs.
Yeah, we've seen that a lot.
Like you look at that Metro division and you say, if the choice was between trying to finish third and maybe playing the Panthers and playing the Leafs and playing even the Canadians have gotten a lot better, or dumping on and trying to jump on that Metropolitan side, figuring if I can get past Carolina, I might get the Penguins in the second round.
Right. Yeah,
a little bit better about that. So because you just don't know who's coming out on that side, what 3 teams are going to be on the Metro side. So there might be some more value in that. There's no doubt that he's there, that they're looking, they're hoping that the trades they made last year, the Bjorkstrand trade, that those trades start to pay off in dividends this year. This is the year they really pay off for them. So there wasn't a lot they could do. They weren't fully healthy when they played the Panthers last year. Obviously, you had Hagel missing, a bunch of time. York Strand wasn't there. They were already they were carrying a 6-shooter against a team that was wielding a machine gun, and it wasn't going to work out.
Yeah, and we'll see, because I feel like when you're looking at this entire season ahead, you're really not going to know anything about this Lightning team come till the postseason, right?
Yeah,
so we can ride the ups and downs and think they're going to be good, think they're not going to be good. But look at Florida; they're playing like dog crap down the stretch, and then they win the cup for the second straight year. So that stuff really doesn't matter when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Any other moves in the NHL stick out to you? Any of them surprise you so far? We've had some player movement.
Yeah, nothing really blew me away. Nothing really. I mean, when I look within the division, obviously, Canadians getting Dobson, that makes them their better team now. The Wings finally got what they think is a better goaltending situation. I'm always, the Buffalo Sabres have always been a curious team because they have a lot of wonderful young talent, and it's just like, can they make the moves to avoid that 11-game losing streak they're going to have, that 11-game winless streak they're going to have during the course of a season? And so little things like that. I definitely kept an eye on the division, and it's teams like the Bruins seem to be, they're in a rebuild situation, but you've got the Canadians on the come up. I think the Senators didn't do anything to get worse. I feel like if the Gibson move works out, the Wings are probably a couple of games better, and it's a tight group. It really is. Once you get past, if you believe that Florida is the team in the division, which they certainly look to be, it's a really tightly packed group beyond there, because anything from 2 to 5, I think is going to be up for grabs. I certainly, even the Leafs, they were able to get Tavares back on a pretty nice contract. They knew they were going to lose Mitch Marner. They actually ended up getting a player for him, so that's a good thing all in all. That's probably more than they bargained for when they thought about it. So it's a lot of teams out there. It's a lot of teams. It's going to be a dogfight.
I want to ask you, as I was having this conversation earlier today about some USF football. We know that they have just a dogged schedule to start the season, playing Boise State, Florida, Miami. What do you anticipate early on in this season for Alex Golish and the Bulls, with Byron Brown back, I would say under center, but he's not always under center, very rarely under center. Back at quarterback for the Bulls. What do you see? What's the realistic possibility you think of them clipping one of those games, possibly winning 2? I'm not even going to ask you about 3, but where do you think we're at with Coach Golish? I know it's so tough early on, but I mean, what do you anticipate to see from USF to start the season?
I'd like to see him. I think they certainly got a shot to win that Boise game to start the season. I think that's a good position for them. They're catching a team out in that hot Florida sun afternoon in August. I think they can. I think they've got the offensive firepower to hang with them. And I don't. Boise. This isn't the Boise team that we remember 10 years ago.
Yeah, Chris Peterson and them.
Peterson group. It's not those sort of players. So it's a very it's a very good team. Boise's been consistently a very good program, but they're not a team that was going out beating Georgia like they did 10, 15 years ago. They're not that sort of team. So I think they can win that game. I certainly think between Miami and Florida, they'll be competitive in one of those games, maybe both. Miami, I worry, is the size advantage up front might be a little bit too much for them to deal with, especially with those big tackles that Miami has and that great offensive line.
Do they have a better chance of beating Miami or Florida?
I think of the two, Florida's probably a little more susceptible, given styles make fights. I think Miami is going to really lean on their running game and lean on wearing down USF over 4 quarters, whereas Florida's got the quarterback is the big thing. They've got, DJ Lagway is certainly a very talented player, exciting to watch. But, a lot of their offense is going to be around him making plays, and maybe you catch him in a bad day. Maybe you catch him, maybe you're able to get some hits on him early and slow him down. I've always thought –
who would you take between those two, Florida and Miami, if they win head-to-head?
They will go head-to-head this year.
Oh, they will? Okay. Yeah. All right, so they go head-to-head this year. Who do you have in that, Florida, Miami?
I think Miami's probably 3 to 5 points better at home. I think they get the home. They get that home field sort of 5 point advantage, but it's much closer. Obviously, I mean Miami won by I think 24 last year. Much closer this year. Much closer this
Right.
year. But I still think they're a little better. I think we'll see a better Carson Beck this year just because Miami's offense is going to be much more run based, play action based. I think Georgia maybe relied on him a little bit too much last year because their running game wasn't always what it needed to be. So as long as Miami gets the running game where I think it's going to be, I think they'll get a little bit better version of Carson Beck. So I think they're a little bit better than the Gators.
Carson Beck, where do you think he would have been drafted if he would have went into the draft this year?
Ooh, third round, I would say.
Third round guy.
Maybe as high as second.
Before Shador?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't just because whatever issues NFL teams had with Shador, they weren't having him with Carson Beck, even though we also got a car stolen from him. I bet they left the keys in the car too. That's a sad thing. But yeah, I would say third, maybe second. I would assume that he would have, if he were healthy, he would have done very well in his workouts and his combine and his interviews. NFL, I certainly wouldn't have. I mean, if it's all based on play, the Ole Miss quarterback wouldn't have gotten taken in the first round. I heard you as a Giants guy, but we saw him have
I don't know what
we saw him have a mental breakdown against Florida, like literally on the field, just mentally breaking down and like, oh my God, how can I? Like, I'm like, this guy, how's this guy going to play in the pros?
It was one of the worst crash and burns I've seen from a college quarterback. And I just go, wait a second. How did they lose that game? Like it just that was a wild. Yeah. And then Jackson Dart, who knows what his snap count? He doesn't even know what a snap count is. I mean, luckily for him, he's playing on a team with 7,000 other quarterbacks, so it's not like we're going to see him right away anyway.
I want to see Jameis like kind of nurturing Jackson. I want to see videos of that.
Jameis
and Jackson. Like a YouTube channel and Jameis nurturing Jackson.
Don't forget about Tommy Cutlets. Tommy DeVito's still there too. You imagine that? Just do a TV show with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, Jackson Dart, and Tommy DeVito. I mean, come on, man. I mean, that could be a lot worse.
It's like a new version of Entourage.
Exactly. See, people are like, I said that to somebody. Oh yeah, look at the quarterback room of the Giants. So like, they're not going to be good. I go, yeah, I don't think they're going to be good either. I'm talking about entertainment. They should do a TV show because that'll be entertaining as hell.
Who's the Vinny Chase in that group? Before we go, who's the Vinny Chase?
No, go ahead. I mean, it's got to be Russell Wilson.
You think?
Sierra.
Yeah.
Who's the weird? Jameis is the weird brother. Is Vinny?
Jameis is definitely Johnny Drama.
Johnny Drama.
100% drama over the top in every possible way. So that would make. I guess Jackson was a turtle. Yeah, E would have to be Tommy Cutlets.
No,
no one cared about E anyway. He just it felt like he just happened to be the guy on the show.
I feel like Tommy Cutlets is Turtle.
Really?
Maybe we have to switch it up. Maybe Russell Wilson is E, and maybe Jackson Dart is Vinny Chase.
Ooh.
Maybe that's what we have to do.
Vinny Chase was a very flawed character. This is true.
He was. So Jackson
very flawed. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So the entourage crew. The entourage crew for the Giants is going to be Vinny Chase is Jackson Dart. E is Russell Wilson because he's got his shit together, right?
Yes.
Jameis is definitely Johnny Drama.
Jameis is absolutely
and
Johnny
then
Drama.
Tommy DeVito is Turtle.
Yeah, Jameis is 100% Johnny Drama because we're always rooting for a comeback. As we're always rooting for a comeback for drama, we're rooting for a Jameis comeback all the time.
If Jameis just starts going up to Lamar Odom and start asking him about his calf implants, then we know we really hit a home run there. All right, before I let you go, an incredible week ahead when it comes to wrestling. Last night with Monday Night Raw and seeing the Evolution pay-per-view coming up, Saturday night's main event coming up. What are some of the big storylines out of last night? And you can throw All In if you have anything on there as well, because I think All In's going to be amazing. I
don't watch it.
I know. I just had to throw it in there in case you watched it. All right. So the WWE side, what matches?
35-minute matches on AEW, and they'll all be the greatest things anybody's ever seen.
It's a 17-star match, but Mercedes Moné against Toni Storm is going to be good.
I would watch that.
That's going to be a good one. I think that'll be the one of the day. And also Okada versus Kenny Omega for possibly the last time. All right, WWE, what stood out to you, and what are you keeping an eye on the rest of the week?
Obviously you're keeping an eye on. I'm keeping an eye on the briefcases. I'm really intrigued as they sort of get serious about the Jade push coming out of Night of Champions, kind of where that heads. If if the briefcase, I'm assuming Seth is going to continue to win, but one of the briefcases is like a loser game. Like they just lose until they just happen to shock win. So Naomi she's going to lose everything, lose every single match until one day she just surprises Tiffy or whoever the champion is and comes out as a champion.
She's got to screw over she's got to screw over Jade Cargill, right? Like, because I could see Jade Cargill winning this week, and then obviously she gets her match at SummerSlam.
Yeah,
and then she beats Tiffany Stratton, and then Naomi comes out and then cashes.
And Naomi will come out at some point, and that'll be how it's done. Yeah, I can see that happening. That's great. I'm actually a little. I'm not a Goldberg guy, so I'm kind of annoyed by the whole thing, and I hate that Gunther just looks so mediocre right now. Every way, like last week he's getting shoved down by this week he's getting one punched, and it's like I want my old Walter back to just walked in and just steamrolled dudes.
Put some more weight on. Put the M. Bison jacket back.
Yeah,
on.
You got to put. Yeah, he's lost maybe too much weight. I agree with that. I'm very proud of him. Vince at the time I think Vince was running. He made him. He wanted to drop the weight. The guy did exactly what he was told. His discipline is incredible. But yeah, he just does not. His hair is too nice. Like I want him to shave his head too. Like get kind of a Rusev kind of crew cut thing going there, like a little buzz there. Like it's just something's got to change about the guy to get him to look a little bit more imposing.
Yeah, I think he's lost some of the mystique. I really do. I think, and I get that he's a guy that taps out quickly, but I thought what happened at WrestleMania did a lot of damage to his mystique. It's not just losing to Jey Uso, but it's how he lost to Jey Uso. Tapping out on a rear naked choke. It's one thing if the rear naked choke was Jay's move, like, oh, he does the rear naked choke. This is how he finishes some people. He's not Samoa Joe, right? It's not the coquina clutch here. It was just a rear naked choke attempt. He tapped early, and everybody was like, oh, over? All right, great. It's Jay. Awesome. But I just thought it made Gunther look extremely weak. And then he had that match with McAfee at Saturday Night's Main Event. Like, I just feel like he's a guy that's I feel like
they know what to do with him, which is odd. I mean, I think there's things you could do with them. I certainly think, if all else fails, you can just throw them in there with Sheamus or Rusev and say, hey, beat the crap out of each other and just put for 15 minutes and they'll get over. The crowd's going to love it. He can still beat up guys. That's the thing. Like they've taken away the mystique that makes him that he just beats guys up. I'm happy for the LA Knight. I'm happy that LA Knight is still going up against top guys. I kind of like this program with him and Seth. It feels kind of fresh. It feels new. I was worried about where LA Knight was going to go as a baby face. Now that his championship run is kind of past, but this is a good spot for him to be in. I like him as part of that underdog group that's trying to fight this. What do they call themselves? Like the Vision or whatever they call themselves.
I don't know what. Last night we found out Paul Heyman's name is the Oracle.
The Oracle.
And, so maybe the Vision, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was decent last night. I still think they kind of need to do a better job of when they start the show having a plan of what the hell's going on.
Well, I'm just tired of Seth coming out every show. Like building a show around Seth Rollins is just a curious choice. And not to say that I think Seth is great. I think he's a great talent.
But
I just think
Where's the but?
No, that's
what I'm saying. That's the problem. Yeah. I love Seth Rollins. He's one of my favorite guys of all time. But in order for him to get
the presence Roman Reigns is. He's not that
but can he build that though, right? Because
he has to not be on TV every week.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So if that's not working, right? What else do you have to do? Because right now he's in that Macho Man, Edge, number 2 best guy during an era right now. And their hope of putting him with Paul Heyman was, all right, now you elevate him so that you have aura. I don't necessarily think that Seth has an aura. He's got respect because he's so good in the ring. He's got an incredible resume. He's super reliable, right? People love his song, but that same aura where going out there to the ring and not having to say a word and people losing their shit, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that now. Can he get it? Could, but he doesn't have even an aura like Dominic Mysterio. right?
No.
There's certain guys that can go out into the ring and they don't say a damn thing and people lose their shit. Roman had it. Cena's got it. Cody's got it. Punk's got it. I just don't know if Seth has it.
He just doesn't have that sort of heat that just radiates off of him just in appearance alone. And it makes me wonder, you swap Seth out with, say, Logan Paul. Same thing. Just put Logan Paul in that spot. And where Logan's not going to be on TV every week. Does Logan have that sort? Can he build that sort of heat that just radiates with him being around this muscle and being pushed like this and that? And I think he probably does.
They did that with who? What did they just do that with? John Cena. Too many people were cheering John Cena. So what did they do? They put Logan Paul with him for a little while. He was getting all that heat, that residual heat. I like it. I don't think it's a terrible idea because how many like legit heels are there out right now that people just love to boo? Like,
not many.
Not that many.
We're basically counting the minutes until Braun Breaker, till something happens there and he just becomes the massively over kick-ass baby face that everybody wants him to be right now.
Right.
It's not a lot of, you're right. There's not a lot of heels and it's weird because some of them are doing decent work. Like I thought Solo has done really great heel work. He just, but
even Finn, he makes people laugh though. He's not he's a heel, but like when you're doing out there and you're cracking jokes, like people, I like Solo now. I like Solo now more than I have ever liked him before.
Ooh.
But that's the problem. Like that's not a good heel. Like to me, a heel should be like Baron Corbin was a good heel. The Miz is a great heel. Logan Paul is a good heel. I mean, even Rusev now, right? Rusev, people are happy that he's back, but he's a heel. Like he that's what it's got to be. And I think that's the problem. I mean, listen, if Braun Breaker's a heel, you shouldn't be barking with the fans. You know what I mean? That's not a babyface thing. It's a heel thing.
It goes to what one of the old Ricky Morton said not too long ago, is that nobody really wants the heat now. Nobody really wants to be Roman really wants to take on the heat anymore. Even the heels, they still want to be, and all of them want to be cool. They want to be cool heels. No one wants to have just the heat. They don't want to be disliked. And there was a time when being, supremely disliked was how you drew money. It was how you got paid the most. But nobody wants that anymore. I think there's certainly something to that. And I remember, and something that annoyed me, it was not too long ago, and it was during the earlier days of Seth, and I don't even know if Bronson Reed might not even been part of the team yet, but he's in the ring. He's there. Him and Braun are getting heat on someone, and I think this was the lead into Saturday night's main event, as a matter of fact. And CM Punk, Sami Zayn run around. The heel thing to do is to run away, like what he did to CM Punk 2 weeks ago. But they stood in the ring and they're just like, "Come on, bring." I'm like, "No, that's not what you do. You're heels, man. When the superheroes come out, you run away.
You're a coward.
You dare them to come in the ring so you can have a fist fight with them." And Roman never did that.
Right.
Roman either wanted numbers on his side, but if it was one-on-one, and Roman, I ain't fighting this guy,
Smart.
Boo me,
Yep. Boo me. Well, we don't boo Corey Long. Follow him on all social media platforms at Corey Long. Whatever he's doing, he's covering a bunch of different sports, and of course, with some great takes on wrestling as well. Corey, appreciate you, my brother. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jay. I always love coming on. Take care of yourself, brother.
See you, buddy. The one and only Corey.